My name is Julia Smedley. Let me begin my tale by asking a few questions. How do you like your potatoes? Mashed? Boiled? Chipped and fried, perhaps? What about your ideal car, then? Curved and sporty, or boxy and reliable? A holiday in the African sun, or skiing in the Pyrenees? In the end, does it really matter? It'd be a poor state of affairs if we all liked the same things. What about sex, then? Do you like yours with a man or a woman? Both? Or, God forbid, with children or animals? Well, the point I'm making is that no one can help the way they feel, the way they're designed. It's all a part of nature's limitless abundance and rich variety. We can, of course, depending on the strength of our urges and the opposing force of our moral convictions, choose whether or not to act upon those feelings, but we cannot help having them. As the mind of the world broadens, the scope of human sexuality is widening, although it can't be compared to how it was, say, 2,000 years ago when the Romans were in charge. They really knew how to throw a party. Then the emergence of Christianity brought us headlong into the sexual dark ages, choking off any possibility of the use of sex as a recreational activity. And you couldn't have a good hard shag all through the Middle Ages unless you were prepared to accept that an omniscient father figure was standing at the bottom of your bed watching your ass bobbing up and down, and that he could give it a good hard slap if you looked as if you were enjoying it too much. The Victorians? Don't even get me started on those numbfuckers. Then, at last, the swinging 60s. No risk of pregnancy, a pill to cure all known venereal diseases, and plenty of willing sexual scientists to experiment with. The field of human eroticism grows ever wider. Some things, though, will never be accepted. Despite the fact that certain practices have always been with us, flitting through the tempting velvet darkness that lies beyond the horizon of sexual normalcy, they are, although generally quite harmless, regarded with great distaste. Yes, I'm normal in virtually every respect. I'm a young and healthy female. I've had a good upbringing, enjoying the attention of loving parents. I have several siblings who have beautiful families of their own. I'm heterosexual, as if that matters at all, and I go for the standard male characteristics. I like a tall, firmly set man of approximately my age, with a full head of thick hair, dark and wavy preferably. I like good musculature and straight white teeth, and I'm a sucker for the strong silent type. So you see, I really am quite normal, apart from the fact that they also have to be dead. I mean, it's not like they're in short supply, is it? Just hard to actually meet. That's the problem. That's why I worked as a mortician, to improve my romantic opportunities. But I'm leaping ahead here. When I was 15, I realized my predilection for post-mortem relationships, as I call them. An interest in the opposite sex had kicked off in the usual way at the right age. There was the girlish gigglings between friends as the boys walked past in the school corridors, and the secret exploratory fumblings when the lights went out at the extracurricular drama club. I did my fair share of kissing, but no tongues, please, and of course I became aroused. But in retrospect, glorious as these sensations were, they were nothing compared to what followed. Kevin Washby, corpse number 3. That's what it said on the program. I've still got it stashed away with other mementos in my bedroom drawer. As I said, I was a member of the school drama club, and we were putting on a pantomime loosely based on Robinson Crusoe, except that it had Dracula in it and the Easter Bunny. I was in the chorus. We had this scene where Count Dracula had just finished off 3 peasants to the tune of "Food, glorious food," when I saw him, Kevin that is, lying on the stage motionless with his throat raised and lashings of fake blood soaked into his ragged clothes. It was like being kissed between my legs, a sort of hot fluttering. I'm no poet, and I've yet to read a poem that adequately describes what it's like to be turned on like a firework display on New Year's Eve. But I think you know what I'm talking about. It was maybe an hour later that I finally got to be alone. I ran to the girls' toilets and sat in a cubicle in darkness with my hands down my panties. After 5 minutes of frenzied finger action, I threw a massive, bone-shaking gusher of an orgasm. Honestly, I almost fell off the fucking pot. When I got home, I must have masturbated almost continuously for the rest of the night. The image just kept coming back to me for days after. I didn't fully realize at first what it was that had sent me over the top. I thought that maybe I just fancied Kevin Washby, so I made a point of chatting him up over the next few weeks, and when I did finally get to give him a good snogging, I realized that I'd made a mistake. Oh, it was okay, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't until I saw him in my mind's eye, cold and immobile, that my loins freaked. That's how it was for a few years until university. I fell in with a group of goths for a little short-term excitement, probably because most of them looked like they were dead, but you can't fool yourself. I needed the real thing. When I left uni, I went to work for a local funeral director. I was 24 when true love finally came along. Alex Dawson, that was his name. I have a picture of the 2 of us together. Would you like to see it? Well, perhaps not. Anyway, I went to work with him one day, and there he was. My soulmate. My perfect man. God, he was seriously lush. Dead as a doornail and not a mark on him. It was love at first sight. Not that I'm into all that romantic slush, but he loved me too. I could tell. He was the son of a local counselor and aspiring commons backbender. He was very well educated and witty. We never argued. We just fitted together. We had deep and meaningful conversations about every conceivable subject, and we wanted to be together forever. It would have been nice, just him and me, in a timeless bubble of love with nothing but sex and chocolate. But it can't ever be that way. I'm not stupid. I know I have to deal with the real world. Sooner or later, his family would want him back. We spent a couple of hours in tearful torment until we made our decision to elope. The night before Alex's funeral, I sneaked in through the back door of the funeral parlor. I'd already managed to get a key cut earlier that day. Alex was there in the semi-darkness, waiting for me just like we'd agreed. He'd never let me down. We were in love. We both knew that he couldn't sit in the front seat of the hearse. He had to hide in the back. It all went so smoothly until the alarms went off. Apparently, there were 2 alarm systems, one for the main building and one for the garage. We tripped the garage alarm, so we had to leave quickly before the police arrived. We sped off into the night, screaming and giggling. We must have driven for about an hour, completely absorbed in the rush. I eventually pulled over into some trees and breathed in a deep sigh of relief. I clambered into the back of the hearse, and we lay together in silence for a while, trying to take in the enormity of what we'd done. Like I said, I'm no romantic, but even I know when the time is right. There was no fumbling or clumsiness despite the lack of room. It was a lingering kiss followed by slow deliberation. Once we were both naked, I climbed aboard and straddled him. It was all so easy, like it was meant to be. I was just getting into the rhythm, pushing slowly back and forth, working us both into a lather. That's when the back doors suddenly flew open, and half a dozen police officers stared in on us, picking out our nakedness with torchlight. Our love was doomed from then on. Alex's parents refused to let us see each other, although for some reason they managed to avoid any further involvement with the police. And I was fired from my job. I hit a little depression for a few months. Heartbroken, I suppose. Anyway, the long and the short of it is that I decided that from then on I'd never waste time again. Why should love wait? If it's right, it's right. A year or so later, I met James. I'd gone to a nightclub with friends and we accidentally bumped asses on the dance floor. Yes, I know what you're thinking. What happened to the dead guy thing? Well, I'm coming to that. So, James and I, we really hit it off. After a couple months, we were inseparable. He was something of a gentleman, and it took a little while before we got down and dirty, if you get my drift. In the end, I had to push him a little. He finally admitted that he loved me and that he wanted me to love him. I tried to explain to him that each time I thought I'd found true love, the relationship had turned out to be somewhat short-lived. He seemed confident that our love would be different and that we shouldn't wait to be together forever. I hardly have to tell you that this was just music to my ears. We were the same, James and I. We had an understanding. I wanted to make our first time special, so I waited until he'd gone to work and I went to his flat. I pushed back the furniture and made it a little cozier by putting colored veils over the lamps. I put scented candles around the room and then hit the kitchen to make my special spaghetti bolognese. James arrived home a little late. This was good because I had to put together a few finishing touches. Let's just say he looked a little surprised when he did turn up. I ran him a nice hot bath. We had a cozy candlelit meal, and then we were at it. It started out soft, but then turned rapid fire, all mouth and trousers. I have to say that James was an impressive lover. He was either very experienced or extremely talented. He must have had the constitution of a horse because it took perhaps an hour before the volume kicked in. He went off to sleep, dozing in the musky sense of sexual aftermath. I waited patiently, the tension crowding into my loins and making me ache. 20 minutes I waited before I put the plastic bag over his head and pulled it tight. Then it was my turn to rattle his bones. It's been about 2 months now, and the dim lighting and scented candles are still working a treat. James was right. We are meant to be together. And why should love wait?